In the grim darkness of a universe where decay and corruption reign supreme, there exists a figure whose very essence defies the boundary between life and death, a Plaguebearer. This narrative does not begin with the clamor of battle or the thunder of cataclysmic events, but rather with a quiet, insidious transformation that takes root deep within the tortured recesses of a tormented soul. The journey we are about to embark upon is one of introspection, metamorphosis, and the eternal struggle between the forces of decay and the remnants of what might once have been considered humanity. At its heart, the tale of the Plaguebearer is an exploration of the enigmatic interplay between the physical and the metaphysical. As we peer into the abyss of this creature's mind and soul, we are invited to consider a universe where the familiar laws of nature are perverted by an otherworldly malice, a malice that infects not only the flesh, but also the very spirit that animates it. This is not merely a story of disease or pestilence. It is an account of transformation on an almost cosmic scale, where the boundaries between the corporeal and the spiritual blur into a murky continuum of despair and twisted redemption. The world in which this transformation occurs is one marked by perpetual strife and decay. Shadows linger over forgotten battlefields and ruins, where the whispers of ancient horrors echo through the desolate corridors of time. In such an environment, the Plaguebearer emerges not as a conventional monster, but as a living testament to the inexorable pull of entropy. Its existence poses a profound question. What becomes of the mind and soul when they are inexorably entwined with the forces of plague and pestilence? How does one navigate the labyrinth of corruption when each step is taken on a path paved with the remnants of a once proud legacy? Throughout this tale, we will encounter themes that resonate with the core of our understanding of existence. The Plaguebearer, in its ceaseless march towards an uncertain fate, embodies the paradox of decay, giving birth to a new form of order, an order that is as alien as it is inevitable. This narrative is not intended to provide clear-cut answers or definitive moral judgments. Instead, it serves as a meditation on the nature of transformation itself, a process that is as relentless as it is mysterious. In setting the stage for this exploration, it is essential to appreciate that the journey of the Plaguebearer is one marked by both physical disintegration and spiritual reawakening. There exists a haunting duality in the progression from a being once perhaps familiar in its humanity to a vessel of plague, a duality that is reflected in every tremor of its corrupted mind and every shadow that dances upon its fractured soul. As the layers of its former self peel away, what remains is a being caught in a perpetual struggle between its inherent nature and the inexorable forces that seek to redefine it. This prologue is not a comprehensive recounting of the events or a detailed dissection of the myriad forces at play. Rather, it is an invitation, a call to witness the unfolding of a narrative that challenges our preconceptions about the nature of mind, soul, and the inexorable march of decay. The transformation of the Plaguebearer is a microcosm of a larger, more profound phenomenon that touches upon the deepest fears and most enduring mysteries of existence. It beckons us to question the true cost of corruption, the price of survival, and the possibility of redemption in a universe where even the most tormented souls might harbor the faintest spark of hope. As you prepare to delve deeper into this dark saga, let the prologue serve as a threshold, a boundary between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the familiar comforts of certainty and the unsettling allure of the unknown. Here, in the quiet before the storm, the stage is set. The transformation of the Plaguebearer awaits, its fate intertwined with the very essence of a universe in decay, and its journey destined to reshape our understanding of what it means to be both mortal and eternal. The universe of the Plaguebearer is populated by a multitude of forces, each serving a distinct role in the unfolding drama of corruption and decay. One faction is known as the Bearers of Pestilence, a collective of warriors and cultists who have embraced the gift of ruin. They are the carriers of virulent influence, whose sole purpose is to spread the blight that transforms life into a landscape of relentless deterioration. Their presence is marked by a fervor that borders on fanatical devotion to the creed of decay, and they operate as the primary vector for the infection that redefines both body and spirit. In contrast, another group, the Keepers of the Unblemished, stands as a bastion of resistance. Comprising warriors, healers, and scholars, they work to understand and contain the malignant force embodied by the Plaguebearer. Their role is that of custodians of order and purity, tasked with monitoring the spread of corruption and devising countermeasures to prevent its inexorable march. Although their methods and beliefs differ widely from those who embrace the pestilence, their determination to preserve what remains of a once stable order is equally unwavering. There exists also a clandestine network known as the Covenant of Shadows. This faction is not defined by overt allegiance to either creation or destruction, but instead seeks to exploit the transformative power of the Plaguebearer for their own obscure purposes. Masters of covert operations and manipulation, the Covenant of Shadows occupies a space where loyalty is fluid and alliances are transient. They are the silent orchestrators behind many events, working in the periphery to influence outcomes in ways that defy simple categorization. Their subtle influence often goes unnoticed until the effects of their schemes become impossible to ignore. Another critical participant is the Legion of the Forsaken, a motley assembly of exiles and outcasts whose identities have been stripped away by the relentless tide of decay. They have been transformed by the same affliction that fuels the Plaguebearer, becoming a living embodiment of their own shattered pasts. Though they are frequently dismissed as mere pawns or expendable foot soldiers in the broader conflict, the Legion of the Forsaken carries a unique perspective born from suffering and a constant state of flux. Their presence on the field is both a reminder of the pervasive reach of the infection and a symbol of the cost exacted on those who have been left behind by a world in decline. A further faction, the Circle of Atonement, represents a group of introspective minds and spiritual seekers. This circle is composed of individuals who have dedicated themselves to deciphering the metaphysical implications of the plague's touch. They approach the phenomenon with a blend of scientific inquiry and philosophical reflection, seeking to understand not just the physical transformation, but the deeper, less tangible alterations wrought upon the spirit. Their role is to provide insight and interpretation, often challenging the more binary views of destruction and preservation that dominate the other factions. They question what it means for a soul to be redefined under the influence of relentless corruption and whether there is potential for renewal amidst the decay. Additionally, there is the Order of the Vigilant, a disciplined and methodical assembly of tacticians and enforcers. This order has emerged as the disciplined arm of those who wish to control or contain the spread of the Plaguebearer's influence. Their operational focus lies in establishing strategic outposts and fortified positions where the spread of corruption can be monitored and counteracted. Through careful planning and unyielding resolve, the Order of the Vigilant acts as a stabilizing force, striving to impose structure on an otherwise anarchic spread of decay. Their contributions lie in their capacity to respond quickly to emerging threats and to marshal resources with an efficiency that contrasts sharply with the chaotic nature of the infection itself. Finally, a less conventional actor in this narrative is the Assembly of the Chroniclers. This diverse group is made up of historians, poets, and archivists who have committed themselves to the meticulous documentation of the unfolding events. Their role is not one of direct intervention, but rather the preservation of memory and interpretation. By recording the shifting allegiances, the evolving philosophies, and the personal tragedies of all involved, the Assembly of the Chroniclers ensures that the legacy of the Plaguebearer and its myriad influencers is not lost to the ravages of time. They offer a reflective counterbalance to the more action-oriented factions, reminding all that even in the midst of ruin, there is a narrative to be preserved. Each of these groups plays a distinct role in the ongoing saga of the Plaguebearer. Their individual missions, philosophies, and methods contribute to a complex interplay of ambition, survival, and transformation. In this tapestry of competing visions and diverging paths, the Plaguebearer remains a central figure around which all these diverse influences orbit. The bearers of pestilence spread the infection, while the keepers of the unblemished labor to halt its advance. The Covenant of Shadows maneuvers unseen. The Legion of the Forsaken bears the scars of irreversible change. The Circle of Atonement probes the philosophical depths of transformation. The Order of the Vigilant enforces control in the chaos, and the Assembly of the Chroniclers preserves every moment for posterity. Together, they form the essential elements of a universe where the very nature of existence is contested, reinterpreted, and forever altered by the pervasive touch of decay. Long before the emergence of the Plaguebearer, subtle shifts in the fabric of existence set the stage for an irreversible change. A convergence of environmental deterioration, unchecked scientific ambition, and deep-rooted ideological conflicts gradually created fertile ground for the catastrophic phenomenon that would later alter the nature of life and spirit. In isolated regions where natural decay had long been ignored, the slow accumulation of toxins and pollutants began to erode the natural barriers that once contained the spread of unseen pathogens. Over decades, these areas became incubators for experimental mutations as the interplay between contaminated ecosystems and the ambitions of those seeking forbidden knowledge produced unexpected outcomes. Amidst this backdrop, secretive research projects had been underway in secluded laboratories and remote outposts. Driven by the desire to harness the raw power of natural decay for purposes that spanned medicine, warfare, and even metaphysical exploration, scientists and alchemists alike pushed the boundaries of conventional thought. They manipulated compounds and energies without fully understanding the inherent risks, creating volatile mixtures that defied standard protocols. As these experiments proliferated in obscurity, whispers of an uncontainable contagion began to circulate, though only in the hushed tones of those aware of its potential. The pursuit of knowledge, untempered by caution or ethical restraint, laid a foundation of instability in which every miscalculation brought the collective closer to an unforeseen crisis. Political ambitions and ideological rifts further compounded these underlying tensions. Various groups, each with its own vision for the future, competed for dominance in a landscape where conventional order was increasingly supplanted by chaos. Factions that revered the natural cycle of decay as a necessary counterbalance to stagnation found themselves at odds with those who championed relentless progress and control. These competing perspectives led to covert alliances, clandestine experiments, and an atmosphere of suspicion that permeated the corridors of power. As mistrust grew between once allied factions, any act of scientific experimentation risked being weaponized in ideological struggles, making containment and regulation virtually impossible. Natural calamities also played a significant role in catalyzing the situation. Catastrophic storms, prolonged droughts, and seismic upheavals acted as agents of change in regions already teetering on the edge of ecological collapse. In these turbulent conditions, long-dormant microbial life, once kept in check by stable climates, began to awaken and adapt. Their rapid evolution was fueled by the very forces that destabilized the environment, merging with the artificial compounds created in those secretive research facilities. The merging of natural and synthetic decay produced a phenomenon that blurred the lines between accidental outbreak and deliberate creation, setting off a chain reaction that extended far beyond the original sites of contamination. At the heart of these converging influences lay a pervasive sense of inevitability. Observers noted that every attempt to halt the progression of decay only seemed to accelerate its spread. Every measure enacted to safeguard communities inadvertently fed into the cycle of degradation, as nature's relentless drive toward entropy outpaced human efforts to impose order. The interplay between natural law and human interference generated a feedback loop where each incremental failure compounded the next, ensuring that the path toward the transformation of life was irrevocable. where local legends and ancient prophecies, long dismissed as myth, began to resurface at this critical juncture. Their narrative spoke of cycles of rebirth through devastation, where an era of unprecedented transformation would follow a period of intense strife. These long-forgotten warnings lent a somber air to the unfolding events as communities observed the signs of impending change with a mixture of dread and resignation. Although few could pinpoint the precise moment when the cumulative effects of environmental decay, reckless experimentation, and political conflict converged, the sense of an inevitable turning point became palpable. A subtle yet inexorable force was gathering momentum, drawing disparate elements together into a singular transformative crisis. The missteps of those who tampered with the natural order, combined with the relentless advance of ecological collapse and the simmering tensions of ideological warfare, formed a tapestry of causes that defied simple categorization. The result was not a sudden dramatic catastrophe, but rather a gradual erosion of the boundaries that separated stability from chaos. It was this long, winding path, a slow descent into an altered state of being, that paved the way for the eventual rise of the Plaguebearer. In this climate of mounting inevitability, every decision, every experiment, and every natural disaster contributed a vital thread to the complex narrative of decay and transformation. The circumstances preceding the emergence of the Plaguebearer were neither isolated nor accidental. They were the cumulative result of a world pushed to its breaking point. This critical juncture, marked by an intricate interplay of environmental, scientific, and ideological factors, served as the necessary precursor to a phenomenon that would challenge all previous understandings of life, spirit, and the relentless passage of time. The transformation that unfolds within the afflicted is not an abrupt event, but a series of stages that gradually redefine both the mental landscape and the inner essence. In the earliest moments, subtle alterations begin at a microscopic level, where the infectious agent seeps into neural pathways, setting off minor disturbances. These initial changes manifest as fleeting moments of confusion, a slight disarray in thought patterns, and an unspoken sense of disquiet that hints at a deeper internal shift. At this stage, the mind experiences a gentle erosion of its formerly rigid structure, opening the door for more profound modifications that lie ahead. As the process advances, the cognitive framework starts to show unmistakable signs of strain. Traditional pathways of thought become less reliable, and a vague dissociation emerges. The mind, once anchored by clear, sequential reasoning, now drifts into realms of abstract and often unsettling introspection. In this phase, the individual begins to lose the comforting certainty of familiar emotions. Feelings of joy, sorrow, and hope become intermingled with sensations of detachment and an emerging indifference. There is a quiet dissolution of the boundaries that once separated rationality from raw, instinctual impulses, leading to a state where emotions and thoughts intermingle in unpredictable ways. Subsequent to this initial period of uncertainty, a more turbulent phase ensues. The cognitive environment becomes increasingly chaotic as the infection's influence intensifies its grip on the mind. The individual finds themselves engulfed in a maelstrom of conflicting sensations and fragmented memories. The internal dialogue grows louder and more complex, marked by a struggle between lingering vestiges of the past and the emerging altered state of consciousness. This internal conflict is accompanied by a persistent internal debate where former ideals are questioned and new paradigms begin to take root. During this time, the mind wrestles with the duality of loss and transformation, where the familiar self is gradually supplanted by an evolving consciousness that embraces both decay and the potential for renewal. As the chaos begins to settle, the next stage of transformation takes shape. In this phase, the once disjointed elements of thought and emotion start to coalesce into a more unified structure. The individual's inner world, though forever altered, begins to forge a new identity from the remnants of the old. This emergent self is characterized by a distinctive blend of cold detachment and profound introspection. The reshaped mind develops an enhanced capacity for abstract reasoning and a unique insight into the nature of change. In this stage, past experiences are not entirely erased, but are rather reinterpreted under the influence of the pervasive force of decay. Memories, once clear and emotionally charged, now appear as spectral echoes, serving as both a reminder of what was lost and a foundation for what is to come. With time, the transformation reaches a critical juncture where the mind and soul seem to settle into an altered equilibrium. The new consciousness, having absorbed the tumult of its earlier stages, now operates from a position of reflective calm. There is a notable shift from reactive, impulsive behavior to a more measured and deliberate mode of processing experiences. The individual begins to perceive the world through a lens that is at once analytical and subtly intuitive. In this phase, the mental faculties have adapted to the omnipresent influence of decay, yet they are also capable of a heightened awareness of the intricate balance between destruction and creation. The soul, too, reflects this change. It is no longer a passive repository of emotions, but an active, evolving entity that processes the transformation as both loss and unexpected liberation. The final stage of this internal evolution is marked by an acceptance of the new reality. The individual's cognitive and emotional systems have now been thoroughly reconfigured, resulting in a state that is distinct from any previous condition. Here, the remnants of the former self exist only as faint traces, while the dominant presence is that of a reimagined identity. The mind has learned to navigate its altered terrain with a newfound clarity, unburdened by the constraints of its prior limitations. This mature phase is characterized by a serene detachment, a quiet understanding that the process of transformation, though wrought with turmoil, has given rise to an enduring synthesis of past and present. The soul, having traversed a long and arduous path, now resonates with a steady, almost meditative cadence, reflecting both the scars of its journey and the insights gained from embracing change. Throughout these stages, the progression is not linear, but rather a complex interplay of regression and advancement, loss and rediscovery. Each phase builds upon the previous one, creating a continuum of transformation that reshapes the very core of existence. The mind, once a familiar and predictable landscape, now stands as a testament to the enduring power of decay to provoke both dissolution and creation. In this ongoing evolution, there is a persistent interplay between the remnants of what once was and the emergent patterns that define what will be. The entire process is a profound narrative of change, a journey that redefines the parameters of identity and the nature of consciousness itself. In the midst of an ever-deepening internal struggle, a singular moment emerged that altered the very course of transformation, a decision that would irrevocably redefine the nature of the mind and soul. This decisive turning point was not heralded by grandiose fanfare or an external clash of forces, but was instead a quiet yet profound internal reckoning. At this juncture, the individual experienced a sudden convergence of fragmented thoughts, emotions, and the lingering echoes of a past self, all colliding into an overwhelming clarity. It was as though the disparate voices within had reached a moment of unity, coalescing into a single resonant call that demanded a choice: to fully surrender to the corruptive influence or to grasp at a fleeting chance for transcendence. In that isolated instant, the internal landscape underwent a radical reconfiguration. The turmoil that had once been a cacophony of disjointed impulses gave way to a concentrated focus, a kind of mental stillness that allowed for introspection unclouded by the chaos of earlier transformations. The afflicted consciousness found itself at a crossroads where the seductive allure of oblivion was weighed against a nascent desire for renewal. In this decisive moment, the soul, long battered by the relentless forces of decay, exhibited a spark of defiance, a determination to assert agency over its fate. The choice, though seemingly simple in its binary presentation, carried with it the weight of existential consequence. The decision materialized as an internal resolve, a deliberate act of will that signaled the beginning of a radical reorientation. The afflicted being, now acutely aware of its dual heritage of destruction and lingering vestiges of its former self, opted to forge a path that neither wholly embraced the corrosive influence nor entirely rejected it. Instead, this pivotal choice embraced the paradox inherent in the experience, to acknowledge the transformative power of decay while reclaiming the capacity for conscious thought and reflection. In doing so, the mind reached a state of equilibrium, balancing the inexorable pull of disintegration with the desire to preserve the essence of identity that still lingered in its depths. This internal decision was marked by a profound sense of clarity, as if the cumulative layers of corruption were stripped away to reveal a core of self-awareness that had been hidden for too long. It was not a retreat into nostalgia for what once was, nor was it a blind leap into an uncertain future. Rather, it represented a deliberate synthesis of the old and the new, a melding of the residual memories and emotions with the transformative energies that had reconfigured the very essence of being. This moment of reckoning was akin to the striking of a balance, where the mind and soul chose to integrate the lessons of decay without succumbing entirely to its darker impulses. As this choice took root, the internal world experienced a reawakening. The once disparate and fractured aspects of consciousness began to interlink in a way that allowed for new patterns of thought and feeling to emerge. There was an unmistakable shift in perspective. The individual no longer viewed the transformative process solely as a descent into chaos, but as an opportunity to harness its energy for a form of rebirth. The transformation was recast as a metamorphosis, where the painful shedding of old layers could give way to the emergence of an evolved state of being, one that was more attuned to the interplay between entropy and renewal. In the wake of this decisive moment, the overall progression took on a new character. The internal debate that had once been a relentless cycle of conflict gradually began to subside, replaced by a sense of purpose and resolve. The mind, now operating with a renewed clarity, could discern the subtle interplay between the forces that had long vied for dominance within its depths. There emerged an understanding that the journey was not a linear progression from one state to another, but a dynamic process that required constant recalibration. The choice made at this critical point became the fulcrum around which subsequent transformations would pivot, influencing every subsequent shift in thought and emotion. This key event also resonated beyond the immediate confines of individual experience. Its ripple effects were felt in the broader context of the ongoing metamorphosis, as the moment of clarity set a precedent for what could be achieved when the inner turmoil was met with deliberate intent. It served as a reminder that even in the midst of overwhelming transformation, there remains the possibility for conscious choice, a capacity to direct the course of change rather than be swept away by it. The decision marked a turning point in the narrative of transformation, one that redefined the boundaries between acceptance and resistance, between dissolution and the possibility of rebirth. Ultimately, this pivotal moment encapsulated the essence of the transformation. It was not simply a reaction to the encroaching tide of decay, but a conscious engagement with it, a moment where the mind and soul, standing at the precipice of profound change, decided to chart a course that honored both the inevitability of transformation and the enduring spark of self-awareness. In that defining instant, the path forward was illuminated not by the brilliance of unmitigated hope, nor the despair of complete surrender, but by the subtle, resilient glow of a will that had chosen to adapt, evolve, and ultimately to survive. The immediate impact of the Plaguebearer's transformation reverberated across the universe in profound and unsettling ways. The very fabric of existence was abruptly altered as new ripples of decay and metamorphosis spread outward from the afflicted entity. As the transformation took hold, the boundaries between the tangible and the ethereal became porous, allowing the corruption to seep into realms that had once been governed by order and stability. This disruption manifested in subtle shifts that quickly escalated into widespread anomalies, challenging long-held perceptions of reality and igniting a series of unforeseen consequences. In numerous regions, ancient structures and cosmic constructs began to show signs of distress. Where order had once been meticulously maintained, subtle fissures emerged, imperceptible at first, yet gradually widening into open gateways for chaotic influences. The altered state of the Plaguebearer sent shockwaves through these areas, dislodging established hierarchies and unraveling systems that had withstood the test of time. Entire sectors of the cosmos experienced a sudden intensification of entropy as the once static energies started to pulse with erratic, dissonant frequencies. Observers noted that even the most resilient and time-honored institutions could not escape the immediate contamination of their underlying essence. On a broader scale, the transformation introduced an unsettling dichotomy between light and shadow. The cosmic balance that had been a cornerstone of existence was thrown into disarray. Energies that were once harmonious and benign took on a darker hue, blending with previously dormant forces that now surged to the surface. This interplay precipitated unexpected alliances and rapid shifts in the cosmic order, with once disparate elements finding themselves inexplicably drawn into a vortex of change. The mental and spiritual evolution inherent in the Plaguebearer, with its complex synthesis of decay and insight, seemed to trigger a similar evolution in the environment, one where the old certainties crumbled, giving way to a universe in constant flux. Cultural and spiritual communities across various worlds reacted with a mixture of terror and reluctant curiosity. Traditional doctrines and belief systems, which had long provided comfort and explanation, were suddenly inadequate in addressing the new reality. Temples and shrines dedicated to forces of order became contested spaces, as emerging sects and mystics sought to interpret the significance of the transformation. Philosophical debates erupted, centering on the nature of existence and the possibility that decay, far from being an end, might herald a new form of cosmic enlightenment. The transformation's immediate impact was not confined to the physical realm. It penetrated deeply into the hearts and minds of countless beings, forcing them to confront the uncomfortable truth that even the soul's inner sanctum was subject to the relentless tide of change. Economic and societal structures also experienced rapid destabilization. The sudden surge in metaphysical turbulence disrupted long-established trade routes, communication networks, and even the foundational beliefs that had underpinned entire civilizations. As panic and uncertainty spread, communities scrambled to re-establish order amid the chaos. In cities that once thrived on mutual trust and shared purpose, dissent and suspicion began to fester, and the delicate balance between cooperation and conflict was irreparably disturbed. The swift encroachment of this new, unanticipated reality not only undermined established authority, but also compelled even the most skeptical leaders to consider the possibility that the cosmos was entering an era of radical transformation. At a cosmic level, the influence of the Plaguebearer's altered mind and soul fostered a peculiar form of resonance, a vibrational echo that was felt even in the farthest reaches of space. Celestial bodies and star systems began to exhibit anomalies, with gravitational and energetic fields deviating from their expected patterns. Some astronomers and mystics alike observed that constellations, once fixed and predictable, now shifted in unexpected formations, as if the very stars were reconfiguring themselves in homage to the new paradigm. The spread of this metaphysical contagion disrupted the intricate symphony of cosmic forces, leading to phenomena that defied conventional explanation. In the wake of these sweeping changes, entire ecosystems were forced to adapt to an environment now imbued with volatile energy. Flora and fauna, long accustomed to a certain order, began to mutate, their behaviors and life cycles altered in response to the pervasive influence of decay. In some cases, this led to the emergence of unexpected forms of life, creatures and plants that embodied aspects of both beauty and decay, thriving in conditions that would have once been deemed inhospitable. The transformation, it seemed, was not a localized aberration, but a catalyst for a broader, universe-wide evolution, one where the very notion of normalcy was redefined in the face of relentless change. Ultimately, the immediate impact on the cosmos was a dramatic reordering of established systems. What had once been a universe of predictable cycles and defined boundaries now teetered on the brink of perpetual transformation. Every corner of existence, from the grand expanses of space to the intimate recesses of individual souls, was touched by the fallout of the Plaguebearer's metamorphosis. This new reality, charged with both the promise and peril of transformation, signaled the beginning of an era where the interplay of decay and renewal would continuously reshape the destiny of all who dwelled within the cosmos. The unique facets of the Plaguebearer's inner transformation have long been a source of fascination and heated debate among enthusiasts. At the heart of these discussions is the notion that the metamorphosis of the mind and soul in this state transcends mere decay. Instead, it is seen as a radical redefinition of what it means to be alive and conscious, transforming the afflicted into vessels of paradoxical wisdom. Observers note that this transformation is not simply an erosion of identity, but rather a complex synthesis where elements of the former self merge with a newfound, if distorted, clarity. One particularly intriguing aspect is the emergence of a duality within the afflicted psyche. On one hand, there is an undeniable erosion of the old order, a surrender to the relentless forces that drive the process of decay. On the other, remnants of self-awareness endure, albeit in a form that has been fundamentally reinterpreted. This coexistence of destruction and preservation is frequently compared to the process of natural decomposition, where the breakdown of organic matter eventually fertilizes the soil for new growth. Fans often speculate that the Plaguebearer's internal landscape mirrors this natural cycle, suggesting that even in profound corruption, there exists the kernel of renewal. The idea that a soul could simultaneously embody decay and nurture the potential for rebirth strikes many as both tragic and sublime. Another captivating element revolves around the restructuring of memory and perception. Many in the community point out that the Plaguebearer's mind no longer operates in a linear fashion. Instead, memories are experienced as overlapping layers, where past experiences, present sensations, and future possibilities interweave into a tapestry of temporal flux. This altered state of consciousness has led to numerous debates about the nature of time itself within such a being. Some enthusiasts propose that the altered neural landscape enables a form of insight that transcends conventional temporal boundaries, offering glimpses into truths that lie hidden behind the veil of ordinary existence. The phenomenon is often described as a timeless awareness, a condition in which every moment holds echoes of the infinite past and hints of an unwritten future. A further point of discussion is the reconfiguration of emotions. Traditional feelings, once clear and distinct, now appear as a blend of conflicting sensations that can be both numbing and profoundly intense. Many argue that this emotional alchemy is central to the Plaguebearer's unique state. In this transformed mind, despair does not simply overpower hope, nor does sorrow completely extinguish joy. Rather, they intermingle to create a multifaceted emotional spectrum. This unusual amalgamation is seen as a source of both torment and unexpected wisdom. Enthusiasts suggest that the interplay of these complex emotions allows the transformed consciousness to access insights into the human condition that are unavailable to those who experience life in a more conventional manner. The resulting state is one where the anguish of decay is inextricably linked to a deep, if alien, understanding of existence. Additionally, the altered soul of the Plaguebearer is often portrayed as possessing an almost alchemical quality. It is said that the soul, rather than being extinguished by the process of decay, becomes transmuted into something with the potential to channel the raw energies of entropy. This transformed essence is believed to resonate with a subtle vibrational frequency that can influence both the spiritual and material realms. Such a resonance is sometimes interpreted as a form of communication, a silent language through which the afflicted might convey insights or warnings to those attuned to the deeper mysteries of the universe. The idea that decay can serve as a conduit for hidden knowledge has been a recurring theme in fan discussions, with many positing that the Plaguebearer's condition could offer rare glimpses into the underlying mechanics of cosmic change. There is also considerable intrigue surrounding the notion of inner dialogue within this transformed state. Anecdotes and speculative theories describe a constant, albeit disjointed conversation occurring within the mind, a dialogue between the vestiges of the old self and the emergent consciousness born of corruption. This internal discourse is seen as a struggle for control, a negotiation over which aspects of identity will dominate in the wake of transformation. Some enthusiasts liken it to a council of voices that debate the merits of holding on to the past versus embracing the radical potential of change. This inner dialogue, in its chaotic complexity, is often cited as a microcosm of the broader conflict between order and entropy that defines the nature of the Plaguebearer. Moreover, the Plaguebearer's state of being has been associated with a profound alteration in sensory perception. Witnesses to this transformation claim that the afflicted can perceive the world in ways that defy conventional explanation, seeing not just physical forms but the underlying currents of decay and renewal that flow through every aspect of existence. This heightened awareness of the subtle interplay between life and death is frequently interpreted as a form of heightened empathy or, in some circles, as a cursed gift. The idea that the mind, reshaped by decay, could develop such an intricate sensitivity to the underlying forces of the universe is a topic that continues to inspire both wonder and dread among those who explore these themes. In summary, the distinctive attributes of the Plaguebearer's transformed mind and soul offer a rich tapestry of ideas that challenge traditional notions of identity, consciousness, and the nature of existence. The interplay of decay and renewal, the reimagining of memory and emotion, the alchemical transmutation of the soul, the ongoing inner dialogue, and the emergence of an altered sensory perception all contribute to a narrative that is as intellectually stimulating as it is haunting. These aspects, widely discussed and debated within the community, not only enhance our understanding of the transformation itself, but also invite us to reconsider the very boundaries of what it means to be sentient in a universe where decay is both an end and a beginning. Among the figures whose personal journeys encapsulate the transformation of mind and soul, several stand out for their unique qualities and the diverse responses they exhibit toward an existence reshaped by relentless decay and unexpected renewal. One such individual, known to some as the Seeker of the Veiled Truth, began life as a dedicated scholar and later emerged as an explorer of the inner realms that now define the altered consciousness. His greatest strength lies in an incisive intellect that dissects even the most subtle shifts in his perception, allowing him to map the uncharted territories of a mind reformed by decay. The Seeker is driven by an insatiable curiosity, a desire to uncover the hidden layers beneath the surface of transformation. This quest, however, exacts a steep toll. The very depth of his introspection isolates him from simpler joys and conventional relationships. The burden of knowledge weighs heavily on him as each revelation reveals further enigmas rather than clear answers. In his quiet moments, he struggles with loneliness and the ever-present risk of being overwhelmed by the vast, chaotic complexity of his inner world. Another figure whose story has ignited much discussion is the vanguard of Silent Equilibrium. Once renowned for his unyielding martial prowess and a resolute sense of duty, he now embodies an extraordinary balance between the fierce impulses of his past and the contemplative acceptance of his present. His transformation has granted him a profound inner calm that contrasts sharply with the tumultuous nature of decay. The vanguard's strength is manifested in his ability to merge the dual aspects of his being, the instinctual desire to fight and the emerging wisdom of surrender. Yet this delicate equilibrium is not without its flaws. At times, he finds himself torn between clinging to the familiar vigor of his former self and embracing the inevitable flux of his current state. This internal conflict occasionally leaves him paralyzed at critical junctures, as the competing forces within render decision-making a strenuous endeavor. Despite these challenges, his determination to seek harmony amid chaos has made him a beacon for those grappling with similar inner battles. Equally compelling is the figure known as the Harbinger of Ascendant Renewal. His transformation is viewed not as a curse, but as a sacred evolution, a metamorphosis that paves the way for a transcendent understanding of existence. The Harbinger's strengths are found in his serene acceptance of change and his remarkable ability to channel the raw energies of decay into pathways for rebirth. His inner world exudes an almost mystical calm, and he exerts a quiet influence over those around him, inspiring hope even in the depths of desolation. However, his unyielding belief in the redemptive potential of transformation can sometimes border on idealism, causing him to underestimate the harshness of the present reality. In moments of crisis, his focus on long-term renewal may lead him to dismiss immediate practical concerns, leaving his allies exposed to unforeseen dangers. Still, his visionary perspective and unwavering commitment to the possibility of regeneration continue to spark intense debate among those who see his approach as both revolutionary and risky. In contrast to these figures stands the chronicler of the fractured memory, whose life is dedicated to capturing the ephemeral nuances of transformation through art and narrative. Formerly an acclaimed poet, the chronicler's journey into the altered state has expanded his creative vision into realms that defy conventional understanding. His unique strength is the ability to transmute the ineffable experience of inner disintegration and rebirth into evocative expressions of beauty and sorrow. Through his work, he offers both a testimony to the agony of decay and a celebration of the emergent splendor that lies hidden within it. Yet the chronicler's profound sensitivity is a double-edged sword. The constant barrage of fragmented memories and shifting perceptions can leave him emotionally vulnerable and at times incapacitated by the weight of his own revelations. His struggle to balance the cathartic release of his art with the need for personal stability makes his path as fraught as it is inspiring. His narrative, woven from both despair and hope, continues to resonate deeply with those who have experienced the transformative process firsthand. A further personality whose inner evolution has captivated observers is the architect of the shattered self. Once celebrated for a visionary intellect that crafted innovative theories about the cosmos, the architect now finds that his mental landscape has become an intricate labyrinth of competing ideologies and impulses. His ability to reconstruct his internal reality into elaborate, dynamic models stands as a testament to his creative prowess. This capacity to innovate within the confines of a corrupted psyche is both his greatest strength and a source of vulnerability. The architect's mind, a complex network of abstract constructs, often teeters on the brink of disintegration as conflicting ideas clash and merge. His intricate internal frameworks, while groundbreaking, sometimes collapse under the strain of their own complexity, leading to bouts of erratic behavior and self-doubt. Despite these setbacks, his relentless drive to understand and harness the forces within him makes the architect a compelling symbol of both the promise and peril inherent in transformation. Finally, there is the sojourner of the divided horizon, whose personal odyssey embodies the struggle to reconcile remnants of a lost past with the uncertain potential of an uncharted future. This individual has traversed the shadowy corridors of internal transformation with a resilience that defies easy categorization. His strengths are rooted in his remarkable adaptability and his capacity for empathy, a gift that allows him to forge deep connections with others undergoing similar experiences. The Sojourner's quest is marked by an earnest search for meaning and a steadfast commitment to unifying the disparate fragments of his identity. Nevertheless, This very adaptability is accompanied by a pervasive sense of fragility. His willingness to embrace change renders him susceptible to the overwhelming fear of total dissolution, and at times, the constant tension between memory and metamorphosis leaves him emotionally unmoored. His journey is a testament to the arduous yet necessary process of reconciling internal divisions in the pursuit of a more coherent self. These figures, each in their own distinct way, have come to symbolize the myriad responses to a profound internal transformation. Their qualities, ranging from analytical depth and martial resolve to visionary serenity and creative sensitivity, offer a spectrum of perspectives on what it means to navigate a state of being that defies conventional boundaries. Their aims, though varied, converge on the common pursuit of understanding and integrating the altered facets of their minds and souls. Strengths and weaknesses coexist in each of their journeys, painting a complex picture of the personal cost and the transformative potential inherent in such an extraordinary evolution. Their ongoing struggles and triumphs continue to fuel discussions among enthusiasts, providing rich material for debate and introspection, and serving as poignant reminders that within the depths of decay, there often lies the spark of a new, reimagined existence. Unresolved questions regarding the inner workings of a Plaguebearer have sparked intense debate among theorists and enthusiasts alike. At the heart of these discussions is the mystery of identity preservation versus total metamorphosis. One of the most contentious points is whether any trace of the original self remains once the transformation reaches its apex. Some propose that the soul, though seemingly corrupted and reshaped, may retain vestiges of its former consciousness, small, hidden kernels that allow for moments of clarity or spontaneous recollection. In contrast, others argue that the process is so profound that any semblance of the previous mind is entirely overwritten, leaving behind a construct that is fundamentally alien and detached from its origins. This dichotomy raises further inquiries about what constitutes true continuity of self, and whether remnants of a past identity might someday re-emerge under the right circumstances. Another debated theory revolves around the mechanism by which the mind adapts to and integrates the transformative forces at work. Several scholars have speculated that the transformation is not merely a passive erosion, but a dynamic, self-organizing process. This concept suggests that the mind actively reconstructs itself by selectively assimilating fragments of its previous state and combining them with new emergent cognitive patterns. Such a theory posits that the transformation involves a complex interplay of neurochemical and metaphysical factors, where certain neural circuits may act as anchors of memory and emotion, even as the overall structure becomes unrecognizable. However, there remains significant uncertainty about the nature and limits of this self-organizing capacity. Questions persist about the threshold beyond which any form of conscious integration becomes impossible, and whether a critical mass of decay inevitably leads to an irreversible disintegration of coherent thought. Closely linked to these ideas is the debate over the potential for regaining control over one's inner narrative. Some theorists maintain that, despite the overwhelming influence of the corruptive forces, there may be a latent ability within the transformed mind to consciously direct its evolution. Proponents of this view suggest that the Plaguebearer might eventually develop a form of higher awareness that allows it to negotiate with the chaotic energies permeating its being. In this context, the transformation could be seen as a trial in which the mind must learn to harness rather than merely succumb to the forces of decay. Yet, there is no consensus on how or even if this potential for self-mastery could be actualized. Critics argue that the inherent instability of the transformed state precludes any lasting exercise of free will, relegating such instances to brief, transient moments of lucidity that offer no long-term reprieve. Another intriguing unresolved matter concerns the interaction between memory and emotion in the altered state. It remains unclear whether the reshaped mind is capable of forming new emotional bonds that are as deep and authentic as those experienced before its transformation. Some suggest that the merging of past experiences with emerging perceptions creates a unique form of emotional expression, one that is richer in complexity, yet tinged with an underlying sorrow. Others counter that the process may lead to a permanent fragmentation of emotional life, where genuine empathy and passion are permanently diluted or even lost. The precise role of memory in either preserving the capacity for profound emotional response or accelerating the decay of sentiment remains a topic of significant speculation, with various theories offering differing interpretations of how deep-seated feelings are reconfigured in the face of relentless change. In addition to these internal dynamics, there is a broader philosophical debate about the ultimate purpose, if any, of the transformation. Some voices within the community suggest that the evolution of the mind and soul into a Plaguebearer state may serve a higher, perhaps even cosmic function. They propose that what appears as decay and dissolution might instead be a necessary step in the cyclical process of creation and renewal, a catalyst for new forms of existence that transcend the limitations of conventional consciousness. This perspective challenges the notion that the transformation is purely destructive, positing instead that it could be an integral part of an ongoing evolution that ultimately benefits the greater cosmic tapestry. Skeptics, however, question whether any such teleological interpretation is justified, arguing that the process is a chaotic aberration with no discernible purpose beyond its immediate impact. A further unresolved question involves the external influence of the transformed mind on the environment and those who encounter it. Anecdotes abound of individuals who claim to have experienced a profound shift in their own perceptions after coming into contact with a Plaguebearer. The exact nature of this influence remains a matter of intense debate. Some posit that the altered state emits subtle energies or vibrations that can affect the consciousness of others, acting as a kind of contagious enlightenment or, alternatively, a source of deep existential dread. Others maintain that such effects are the result of psychological projection, where the observer's own fears and hopes are reflected back in an almost hallucinatory fashion. The interplay between subjective experience and any objective alteration in the surrounding reality remains an area where empirical evidence is sparse, and theories run the gamut from the scientifically plausible to the metaphysically speculative. Finally, a host of technical questions about the limits and reversibility of the transformation continue to challenge researchers. Is there a point of no return beyond which the mind's decay becomes a permanent state? Can the process be halted or even reversed by external intervention, or is it entirely self-contained and autonomous? These queries are compounded by the lack of a clear framework for understanding the precise interplay between physical decay and metaphysical transformation. While some experimental approaches have hinted at the possibility of mitigating certain aspects of the process, no definitive method has emerged to restore the mind to its original configuration or to entirely sever the corruptive influence. This uncertainty fuels ongoing discussions and drives a continuous search for deeper insights, with every new observation prompting further questions rather than providing conclusive answers. In summary, the theories and unresolved questions surrounding the transformation of the mind and soul into that of a Plaguebearer continue to provoke thoughtful debate and passionate inquiry. From the preservation of identity to the self-organizing nature of transformation, from the potential for self-mastery to the intricate balance of memory and emotion, and from the philosophical purpose of the change to its broader environmental impacts, each facet of the discussion reveals layers of complexity that challenge our conventional understanding of consciousness. The quest for answers remains an open-ended journey, inviting ongoing exploration and dialogue in a realm where definitive answers are as elusive as the very nature of the transformation itself. In the long run, the metamorphosis of the mind and soul within a Plaguebearer reverberates across the cosmos, reshaping not only individual destinies, but also the structural foundations of entire civilizations and even the fundamental laws that govern existence. As the altered state endures and expands, its influence spreads slowly but inexorably through multiple layers of reality, altering cultural paradigms, scientific pursuits, and even the metaphysical framework that underpins the universe. One prospective outcome is that the enduring presence of such transformative states could lead to a rebalancing of cosmic forces. Over time, the fusion of decay and emergent insight may prove to be an engine for renewal, enabling the creation of new forms of order where traditional constructs once reigned. This rebalancing might manifest as an evolution in the way societies understand the interplay between entropy and growth. Rather than viewing the process solely as a harbinger of destruction, future generations may come to interpret it as an essential element of cosmic evolution, a necessary phase in the grand cycle of decay and rebirth. In this scenario, the long-term consequences would be twofold: a gradual emergence of novel cultural and scientific paradigms that embrace transformation as a dynamic process, and a subtle reordering of physical laws where the forces of creation and destruction are intertwined in ways that defy previous assumptions. On the other hand, the persistent alteration of the mind and soul carries inherent risks that may lead to destabilization on multiple levels. The diffusion of these altered states might disrupt established power structures and belief systems, creating fissures within societies that have long relied on a sense of continuity and certainty. As communities begin to witness the profound impact of transformation, whether in the form of unpredictable shifts in leadership, the dissolution of ancient traditions, or the emergence of entirely new ideological movements, the fabric of interstellar politics and societal organization could be significantly altered. This upheaval might spur conflict and dissent as factions vie to harness or counteract the emerging forces, with long-lasting implications for stability and progress throughout the cosmos. Furthermore, the legacy of the transformed mind and soul could trigger radical advancements in science and philosophy. As scholars and practitioners come to terms with the new reality, they may develop innovative technologies and conceptual frameworks designed to both study and, if possible, harness the enigmatic energies that underlie the transformation. This could lead to breakthroughs that challenge our understanding of consciousness, catalyzing research into areas that bridge the gap between physical phenomena and metaphysical inquiry. The long-term influence of such studies may be profound, resulting in technologies that allow for controlled manipulation of decay and regeneration, a development that might usher in an era of unprecedented progress, albeit one that is tempered by the risks inherent in tampering with forces that operate at the very edge of known reality. The cultural ramifications of these developments are equally significant. As the altered state becomes increasingly integrated into the collective experience, artistic expression and literature may begin to reflect a more complex understanding of the human and non-human condition. New myths and narratives might emerge that encapsulate the paradox of decay, serving as both an end and a beginning. These stories could provide solace to those who find beauty in impermanence and encourage a philosophical shift away from rigid notions of identity toward a more fluid conception of existence. In doing so, the transformation could act as a catalyst for a broader cultural renaissance, a movement that challenges established norms and invites a re-evaluation of what it means to be conscious in a universe marked by constant flux. However, these potential benefits are counterbalanced by the specter of irreversible loss. Should the process of transformation ultimately erode the core elements that once defined individuality, the universe may face a scenario in which the diversity of thought and emotion is diminished. The gradual homogenization of consciousness, where the unique spark of the original self is subsumed by a pervasive, all-encompassing state of altered being, could result in a sterile, unresponsive collective mind. Such a future, where the richness of personal identity is sacrificed for a uniform, decayed state of being, carries a deeply negative connotation. The absence of individuality and the resulting lack of creative dissent could stifle innovation, leading to a stagnant society unable to adapt to new challenges or embrace the full spectrum of existence. Beyond the societal and cultural realms, the physical universe itself might experience subtle shifts in its structure. The persistent influence of a Plaguebearer's transformation could modify the local fabric of space-time, initiating changes in gravitational dynamics or altering the flow of cosmic energies. These changes might eventually give rise to entirely new phenomena, rifts or anomalies that defy current scientific explanation and challenge the limits of our observational capabilities. While such developments may open avenues for scientific discovery, they also introduce uncertainties regarding the long-term stability of the cosmos. In extreme cases, the cumulative effect of these alterations could destabilize regions of space, leading to phenomena that are both dangerous and unpredictable. Looking ahead, the legacy of the Plaguebearer's altered state is likely to be defined by a delicate interplay between hope and despair, progress and regression. It is conceivable that, in some sectors of the universe, the transformation will serve as a beacon of possibility, a reminder that even in the midst of decay, there is potential for renewal and creative evolution. In other regions, however, the same processes might precipitate decline and chaos, undermining the very structures that have long supported civilization and order. This duality suggests that the long-term consequences of the transformation are not uniform, but will vary depending on the local interplay of cultural, technological, and metaphysical factors. Ultimately, the enduring impact of what happens to the mind and soul of a Plaguebearer may well be the most significant change in the cosmic narrative. Its legacy is poised to influence every facet of existence, from the microscopic interactions within neural networks to the grand design of interstellar societies, shaping the destiny of the universe in ways that are as profound as they are unpredictable. Whether this transformation heralds an era of enlightened renewal or plunges the cosmos into deeper, irreversible chaos remains an open question, one that continues to inspire both fervent hope and deep-seated trepidation among those who dare to imagine the future of existence.